And as many of you know, next Tuesday on the 22nd is the Fall Equinox, and many of us who practice yoga might also practice the 108 Sun Salutations that we traditionally do as a ritual of setting intentions. And to facilitate a smooth process in so many Sun Salutations, we're going to take a look at one of the postures that we flow through within that and really break it down so that we do it safely with alignment that's optimal for your body. All right, let's get started because you guys are here. So if you have 2 yoga blocks, this is going to be very helpful in what we're doing to break it down, as well as a strap. And a strap in which you can create a loop that's taut, measuring the diameter of the loop across your chest so that it's just about your shoulders width in diameter. Slightly shorter, like an inch less than that. So let's take a moment to warm up. We're going to come down onto our backs because for limb staff, I'll quickly show you what it looks like in case you're not aware of that name of the pose. It's the halfway down point from plank to all the way to the floor. And it's also called Chaturanga Dandasana. And it's easy to just kind of skim your way through it. And when we do that repeatedly, if we're not being conscious of how we're aligning our elbows and our shoulders, using the proper muscles in the belly and the back and even the legs, we could injure ourselves. So let's do this wisely. We're going to start on our backs. And if you're doing it with me, feel free. Otherwise, I'm going to record this and then I'll post it again later so that you can have the props ready when you practice it. And we're just going to train our engagement of the transverse abdominis, that deep lower belly muscle that's going to help us sustain the pose. So just lifting your shins so they're parallel to the floor. Bring your knees together, bring your feet together. You want to just activate the muscles in your legs by flexing or pointing your feet. And then with that, notice just naturally the space between the ground and your lower back. For most of us, there's an arch, so there's some space there. Let's work on shortening that space, not flattening it to the floor completely, by drawing the belly inward towards the back. And then now we'll do that even more actively by placing your hands on your lap like you're sitting in a chair, relaxing the shoulders and head on the floor, breathing deeply through the nose, and you'll press your palms into your lap as your thighs resist back into your hands. And with those internal activations, you should feel the lower abdomen engage, and even the lower back begins to lengthen more as the tailbone reaches forward towards the front edge of your mat. And we'll be here for about 20 more seconds, just feeling that through this non-externally visible motion, you can activate that deep lower belly muscle that we're going to activate later in forelimb staff pose. So focusing on balancing the breath and even hearing it by softly narrowing the back of your throat. For those of you who are familiar with Ujjayi pranayama, which means victorious breath. All right, one more deep breath in. Keep lengthening the spine, drawing the navel in, and then exhale, release. And just to release the fronts of the thighs and hips for a moment, let's take one moving bridge pose. So bring the arms down by your sides, parallel the feet hips width apart, and as you firm the feet and shoulders down, inhale, lift the hips, lengthen the tailbone forward towards the space between your knees, lifting the chest, tilt the chin slightly back, and then exhale, slowly lower, one vertebra at a time. And just a little more to warm up, since if you're starting from cold here, just start to bicycle your legs forward. Continue to flex or point your feet to have control over the muscles more easily. And as you do this, activate that transverse abdominis, like when you were pressing your hands into your thighs and your thighs were resisting. And if you want to add a little more fire to it, you can lift the head and shoulders and extend the arms forward. Palms facing each other for 5, breathing. 4, balanced breath. 3, 2, and 1. And then catch hold of your thighs or shins and start to rock forward and back a few times. It's a nice back massage, but also to just lift yourself up. All right, so we're going to try 2 different ways to just train ourselves to feel an imprint of the alignment of Chaturanga Dandasana. So first, using 2 blocks. And if you don't have 2 yoga blocks at home, you can stack books or firm pillows, but you'll want them to be separated because you're going to be in the space between shoulders width apart. We're going to have the blocks in the tallest height. Now, depending on the length of your arms, this will work. It works with my arms, so you'll have to adjust the height. Maybe you prop up something underneath. And you'll want to have your index fingers grazing the center behind each block. So the index fingers are facing forward parallel to each other. And the wrists will be directly underneath the shoulders to start. So we're going to take the modified version first, having the knees on the ground directly under your hips so that you're in modified plank pose. So here, you want to gaze at the floor ahead of your hands to allow a natural curve and length of your neck, not collapsing the head down. So as you look forward, broaden the chest, lengthen your sternum forward, that's right between the collarbones, and then broaden the shoulder blades too by slightly doming right in between them. So here's a full doming. So just slightly focused on the upper back in which you engage your latissimus dorsi, your lats. Rotating the outer sides of your upper arms or triceps towards the back of your mat as you broaden the chest and broaden the shoulder blades. And then feel the activation of your transverse abdominis, that muscle that we were practicing earlier, from the in towards the spine. And continue to grow the chest forward, lengthen the tailbone back, like you're trying to feel a flat back. Now here in plank, we'll inhale, glide forward until you can hover your shoulders over the blocks. And then exhale, bending your elbows back, graze the side ribs so that you lower your shoulders onto the block. So this is where you'll want to have a height that allows you to bend your elbows to 90 degrees and stack them directly above your wrists. Now the support of the blocks will allow you to focus on continuing to look forward, spread the shoulder blades apart, broaden the chest forward, and continue to engage the lower belly. Not this, which is dumping the belly, dumping the pelvis. You want to draw in the lower belly. And then here in Chaturanga Dandasana, we'll take a deep breath in, press the ground and contract the belly more so that you can exhale, lift up, and glide back to stack the shoulders over the wrists. So basically it's a yoga push-up where you keep the elbows hugging your side ribs instead of flaring the elbows apart. So in motion, breath-led movement, it goes like this. Inhale, glide forward. Exhale, bend the elbows 90 degrees. Pause, inhale, lengthen the spine, firm the belly. Exhale, contract the belly more and push up, gliding back to plank pose. Now if you want to try it with legs straight, you want to activate the fronts of your thighs or your quadriceps, not allowing the tailbone to lift up like a mini downward dog, nor drop down. But you want to think of creating that long line from the crown of your head, tailbone to heels, firming your heels back. And then we'll inhale forward, hover over the blocks with the shoulders. Exhale, bend the elbows 90 degrees. Hover here as you breathe in, lift the belly, gaze forward, broaden the shoulder blades, firm the heels back. And then exhale, lift through the belly, push up, and then glide back to plank. Let's try that twice more. Inhale forward. Exhale, bend the elbows 90 degrees, hug in. Inhale, firm the belly, lengthen the spine, look forward. Exhale, press up and glide back. Inhale forward. Exhale, bend. Inhale, hold, firm the heels back. Exhale, lift and glide back. Last time. Inhale forward. Exhale, lower, hold Chaturanga as you breathe in. Exhale, lift up and glide back, downward facing dog. And then from here, you might want to just take a moment to shake the head out, maybe flutter your lips if you tend to carry any tension in your jaw. And then come on down to your knees. Let's give the wrists a little stretch before we try the other strategy. So to stretch your inner wrist, spin out your hands so that your fingertips to some degree turn out to face the outer edges or the back edge of your mat. And then here you could move around in cat-cow if you prefer, or hold still And if your fingertips are pointing towards your knees, you could bend your elbows back and deepen the stretch into your inner wrists and forearms. Now as we stay another few breaths, be aware of your neck, not shrugging the shoulders and tensing that area, but relaxing there. Hearing the breath balance in and out. And then lean back and just roll out the shoulders for a moment. All right, so the second strategy for imprinting the feeling of Chaturanga Dandasana and the alignment of your body is to use the strap. Take one of your blocks, and you'll want to measure the height of it because it's going to be used to hold up your pubic area, your pubic bone area, just below the frontal hip bones, in a way that you could maintain the bent elbows in Chaturanga, 90-degree bend, and that's going to be a platform so that you can focus on the upper body, continuing to broaden the chest, broaden the shoulder blades, and look forward. So the strap, you're going to loop your upper arms into that strap so it's just above your elbow creases, and it should not allow your elbows to splay apart, wider than your shoulders distance. That's the purpose of the strap here. So if you try to pull apart, it should stay there. And then we'll begin in your version of plank pose, whether your knees are on the ground or legs are straight. So you might have to adjust where the block is to catch you just under your frontal hip bones once we're in Chaturanga Dandasana, but let's measure it out this first round. So from plank pose, we'll glide forward, and now the strap is going to be like a hammock to catch your front ribs. Make sure that the buckle on the strap is not digging into your skin on your arms. And as that hammock, I think mine's a little tight, it's a little too small. So as that hammock carries you there, you have two support systems here to be more conscious of the alignment of your shoulders, your neck, that you're breathing, that you're engaging your leg muscles at your quadriceps. So much is going on in this pose, so it's helpful to have these variations of props to be more aware of what's going on. Okay, now I'm seeing that the block needs to be elevated. Let's see if that works. All right, so we'll come forward, press down. Oh, that's a little better. And then so as you're in the posture, now it's really supported than the previous strategy. You'll want to work on firming the heels back as if they're actually pressing against a wall. That causes the fronts of the thighs to engage, the legs feel solid to help you balance, and then you're activating that transverse abdominis in the deep lower belly. You're broadening the chest, looking forward on the ground to lengthen the neck, shoulders away from the neck, and deep breaths. Four-limb staff pose. So here we're just holding the pose, whether your knees are on the ground or the legs straight. And then now that you have an imprint of the posture, you'll want to bring that memory in your body when you're flowing through the poses. So here is Chaturanga Dandasana in the context of Sun Salutation A, which you might be practicing 108 of for Fall Equinox. So Sun Salutation A, inhale, arms overhead, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, forward fold, Uttanasana. Inhale, half forward fold, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, stepping into plank, you lower forward through Chaturanga Dandasana. Here's where you want to feel that imprint. And then you either lower to the ground for Cobra or flip the toes from Chaturanga into upward facing dog. You'll inhale into your back bend, and then you'll press up into downward facing dog. Taking a few breaths there. So those of you that like to float back into Chaturanga Dandasana, really important to feel the imprint of that pose, especially if you're doing so many one after another. So I'll walk you through that float back in a moment. When you're finished in downward dog, you step or jump forward. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rising to Urdhva Hastasana. And exhaling into mountain pose, Tadasana. So here's the float back. Inhale the arms up. Exhale into Uttanasana, forward folds. Inhale, half forward fold, Ardha Uttanasana. Preparing to float back, you want to have your hands flat so they're already where they need to be in plank. Then you'll bend your knees, lift the hips high, hollow the belly, so you're going to jump back with the breath emptied. So you're holding the breath out. Think of lifting the pelvic floor and engaging Mula Bandha. Those of you familiar with that energy lock. And the gaze is forward as you're floating back because you'll want to be in alignment of Chaturanga when you land. Landing lightly, elbows bent 90 degrees. And if you're going to upward dog from here, you flip the tops of the feet on the ground, firm the tops of the feet down so legs are strong as you coil the chest up. The exhale brings you back to downward facing dog where you spend a few breaths, recalibrating your breathing. And then those of you that float forward, similar principles of you using Mula Bandha, lifting the pelvic floor. I like to step the feet together, lift the heels and hips high, bend the knees, and look past the ground where you want to land your feet. And with empty breath, you float forward between the hands. Lightly as you can. Then inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rise to Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, back to Tadasana, mountain pose. So there you have it, Chaturanga Dandasana. I'll be saving this recording in case you want to watch it later with props that you can gather beforehand. And if you want to join me for 108 or your chosen amount of Sun Salutations, we're going to be meeting in Los Angeles, location to be sent to you when you RSVP'd, outside, very safely 10 feet distanced, practicing setting our intentions and following through with inspired action. Thanks for joining. Have a good afternoon.